Oh, hello. It's been a while since I've done a talk to camera piece, hasn't it? Well, tonight on this special spooky night, I want to talk about some spooky things. We live in a world of light and darkness. There's the daytime, and then on the other side of our eternal rotation is the night. But the darkness is ever pervasive, for when there is light, there is also darkness, shadows. And the stronger the light, the more defined the shadows. But that isn't the entire story. There is something else too. A space. A space between the shadows. Now, I'm not going to attempt to explain this. It's like trying to explain blue to a colorblind person. Sure, yes, it's the color of the sky, but is that really what blue is, or is that simply what you've learned to call blue? Anyway, when you get it, when you start to notice the space between the shadows, well, that's when things start to get interesting. I would now like to ask you what reality is. As a neurodivergent person, I've certainly heard plenty of people tell me that I'm not normal. Actually, the word they tend to use is weird, but I'm okay with that. I've had people calling me weird since before I even knew what the word meant. And it pretty much stopped bothering me by the time I was an obnoxious little tween. But it raises the point of, if I'm not normal, then what is normal? As far as I can see, normal is a shared experience. Normal is what people agree normal is supposed to be. Of course, this can lead to some massive inconsistencies, such as over on the left side of the ocean, a country where quite a lot of people would lose their shit if a woman should dare to accidentally flash a nipple on television, yet seem quite willing to elect a racist, misogynistic nutter to lead them. Plus, what is considered normal changes through time. Some films and programs on Talking Pictures TV come with a warning at the beginning, saying that the following presentation reflects the attitudes of the time which may offend some people. This, by the way, is vastly better than censoring a work. If somebody can't handle the fact that everybody smoked everywhere in the 80s and that political correctness was inexistent, well, maybe that person shouldn't watch the thing, rather than expect it to be butchered to appease their delicate snowflake sensibilities. Anyway, if normal is something that people agree on, that different groups of people may have different concepts of what normal actually means, and if it changes through time, then what is reality? In effect, our concept of reality is purely based upon what we're able to sense, what we can see, hear, touch, taste. What if this is, I don't know, incomplete? Perhaps what we are able to glean from our senses is missing many of the details, so our concept of reality is akin to trying to paint an elephant based only upon reading somebody's description of an elephant. To give you an example, we lack the ability to sense wetness. Now you're probably laughing at this, thinking that it's pretty obvious. All the times you stuck your hand into a stream of water, such as a shower or a bath or a sink, to test if the water is a good temperature. And therein lies the truth. We infer wetness based upon the feeling of the water pushing across our skin and the change in temperature. We can tell when we're wearing wet clothes after having been caught in the rain because the fabric feels different when it's wet, and evaporation makes it seem chilly. What we cannot do, however, is sense wet. What else can we not sense? How much of reality are we missing due to that? And more to the point, does it change? It's probably a moot point, as our ability to sense is only part of the story. The other part is our ability to comprehend. Do we even perceive reality the same way? I would say probably not. To demonstrate, consider the rising trend of political extremism. Those who support the far left and those who support the far right. And of course, those who have already decided we're screwed, whatever, and just don't support anyone. The same country, the same economic state, the same governance, and yet such vastly different reactions. The fact that we have left, centre and right pretty much comes down to people having different interpretations of the problems of modern democracies and how to fix it. Tax the rich, blame the foreigners, kick the unemployed. Even on one side, left or right, there are plentiful pathetic squabbles based upon ideological red lines. Because people are like that. If we can't manage to agree on basic things like universal healthcare and reproductive rights, then how the hell are we supposed to agree on questions like, what is reality? The best we can hope for is to say that reality is what you perceive reality to be. which means there are about 8 billion slightly different answers to that question. Now, this wouldn't be a spooky 31st of October video if I didn't drop a logical bombshell. And here it is. Most of what we think real is simply emptiness. No, it's really an awful lot of nothing. I understand you're probably thinking I've missed my sugar top up and should wander off and eat a Mars bar rather than speaking gibberish on a YouTube video. After all, if I take this cat food box video, smash it across my head, then it's reasonably solid insofar as one might expect from a carton. If I walk behind this green screen here and smash my head upon the wall until blood sprays like a fountain of brain goo dribbling everywhere. Hey, it's Halloween, appreciate the visuals. If I was to do that and kill myself in the process, you'd be wanting to come and kick my corpse and say, pretty solid that wall, wasn't it? Next you'll be telling us the earth is flat. And you're right, the wall is solid. And insofar as one might expect from a squishy meat sack, I too am fairly solid. But not much for a stack of rocks. Now let's zoom in. A lot. Until we're looking at it from a molecular point of view. Now I don't happen to know what rock is made of, and I'm too lazy to look it up on Wikipedia, so let's just assume it's carbon with some other stuff like iron thrown into the mix. These are elements. There are several dozen common ones: oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, iron, arsenic and old lace. This is basic school level science stuff. And you should also have learned that each of these consists of vast numbers of atoms. Each atom consists of two parts. There's a core called the nucleus. It contains the protons and the neutrons, the exact number depending on the element, and it's positively charged. And there is an outer, which is negatively charged electrons whizzing around. Again, the number depends upon the element. This weird diagram you can see is an AI-generated visualization. We tend to think of electrons orbiting the nucleus like the planets orbit the sun. But this isn't actually right. The electrons move so rapidly it's a fuzz around the nucleus. But even better, maybe different layers of fuzz at very specific distances. What's between the electron fuzz and the nucleus? Nothingness. What's between each atom? Also nothingness. The atoms that make the elements, and the elements make things that exist, including us. But the atoms exist in a field of nothingness. Otherwise they'd all crash into each other, and well, that would be bad. This means that everything, mountains, stars, tea bags, you and me, are made of unimaginable numbers of atoms residing in nothingness. And, arguably, there's more nothingness than atom bits in everything. Let's bring in now the first law of thermodynamics. That's the one that states that energy can be neither created nor destroyed, only changed from one form to another. With that in mind, I would like to pose two questions. What is it that keeps all the atoms in order, stops them crashing into each other? And secondly, maybe the more important one, what is it that keeps the electrons whizzing around? We can understand that they are in stasis because their kinetic energy, that's their moving, is balanced against their negatively charged attraction to the positively charged nucleus. It's sort of the same method that satellites use. The moon, for example, is travelling at just the right speed. Its attempt to fly off into space is exactly balanced by Earth's gravity, so it flies off just in a never-ending circle around our planet. But this isn't entirely correct. The moon is actually creeping away from the Earth. It's about 1.5 inches per year. Perhaps one day it will free itself from the Earth and fly off to explore brave new worlds along with Moonbase Alpha. Only this won't happen, as it's maybe going to do that in something like 50 billion years. In a mere tenth of that time, 5 billion or so, the sun might have blown through most of its fuel and, as a consequence, turned into a red giant that consumes all of the inner planets, including this one. Anyway, that was a detour. Think of atoms. Everything that exists is made of atoms, and each one, without exception, has at least one electron whizzing around its nucleus. What sort of energy makes it happen? And if there's no direct energy source like the moon, then what started it? And like the moon, what happens if conditions deteriorate such that it all goes wrong, like diminishes, slows down? Does everything collapse into itself like the Big Bang happening all over again? Is that the universe's big red reset button? Sweet dreams!